Child's Play Math, Unit 5, Important Words and Phrases. Working with the program, there is a specific vocabulary that children will need to be familiar with. This vocabulary can be introduced while children play with the rods. That's the most effective way of introducing it. Just incidentally, almost as they're playing with the material, making things, or as you're giving them something to do. It can also be introduced during directed activities, which is what I just meant by giving them things to do. You know your children best, and you know what interests them best. So the whole point of this program is to tailor it to the needs and the ability of your child. So you know their interests, so direct them to do things that interest them. For example, if your child is into the Three Bears story with Goldilocks, ask them to make the Three Bears house. And as they're making or attempting to make the house, introduce the vocabulary to them. But of course, first of all, you need to know exactly what that vocabulary is. So what actually are those words and phrases that you're going to need as you work with your child as we move on to developing concepts? Well, the first one would be, if I take a red rod here, I just go to settings a moment, set up. I don't want to show the letters or the names, okay, cancel. If I take a red rod and place it end to end, that's the first phrase, end to end. We're placing rods end to end. Now, when we place rods end to end, or we place several rods end to end, we can refer to them as a train, So we place rod end to end and we make a train. If I take one rod, say I take the dark green rod, and let's say if I place the pink rod underneath it, these rods are now side by side. Oops, didn't do that. So we have end to end, trains, and side by side. And we also have above and below. So side by side and above and below. And we can also say long and short. Long and short. I mean, if we rotate these, so that's the eraser. If we rotate those one and one and move them side by side. Oops. Go back to the manipulator. There we are, long, short. I can do it that way as well. Okay, back, the other way around. And finally, a phrase that's going to be used a lot. This phrase is used when we make a pattern with the rods. When we make a pattern with the rods, a pattern or a mat as well, can be referred to as a mat. But when we make this kind of thing, It's known as a pattern. Rods end to end, equivalent to each other. It's known as a pattern. You notice I'm using terminology that I assume you are familiar with, but your children won't be familiar with. Equivalent to, those are things that we will be introducing over the next few weeks. And we'll be interpreting a pattern like that in a variety of ways, using different parts of the mathematical vocabulary: addition, subtraction, division, and so on. But for now, I'm going to refer to that just as a pattern. Okay, that's fairly straightforward. Hope you grasped it. There's a little recap frame coming up to remind you, and so I think I'll leave it at that. Okay, thanks. Tactile-Kinaesthetic Learners. Well, as you probably know, if you have young children are naturally hands-on learners. They like to discover things for themselves, often with disastrous consequences. Children also like to feel good, and play is something they all enjoy. Feeling good is a learning state. The emotional state is important. All children need to feel good about something, to feel comfortable, to feel as if they're going to enjoy it. I suppose adults do as well, but more so children, and especially young children. Introducing vocabulary while they're playing with the rods will ensure they understand and retain the vocabulary, because it becomes something that's immediate to what they are actually doing. Okay, to recap, words and phrases: end to end, train, side by side, above, below, long, short, pattern. Okay, grown-ups, something for us. Is that a familiar cartoon? For many parents around the country, around the world actually, I would say that when their child comes home and says, "Dad, can you help me with my math homework?" their response is often, "Oh no." Sort of a panic sets in. I discovered that adults who, for whatever reason, did not grasp maths concept for the first time round found this program liberating. I actually attained Open College Network status for the program, and I worked with parents who found it difficult to help their child with mathematics because they'd never grasped these concepts themselves. We came along, we made it fun, we made the workshops fun, and we did them in much the same way as we do in this program now. And many of them had their eyes opened and were astonished that actually they quite enjoyed mathematics. Often for the first time, they were able to see patterns and relationships traditional teaching methods had hidden from them. That wonderful hidden world of pattern and relationship that is so often hidden from children who are introduced to structure before they understand what it's all about. I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand, and that holds true for most activities, but particularly for math. Okay, that was a short, brief video. Can I just remind everybody that please don't get anxious about rushing into the concepts. Children need time to play, they need time to familiarize themselves with the rods, and they need time to enjoy themselves with the rods. So keep up the process of play. It's so foundational, it's what we're going to build everything on. And in the next video, we're going to look at ways of developing memory recall, very important to learning. Thanks for being with me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next week.